Right, hello everyone, welcome back to Spiel. So for those of you who joined me just a couple of hours ago in Spiel will probably know that I said that they were going to be done with that video, but wait, we're in Scotland and there's no stations and there's no calls. That's because this episode isn't actually going to take place in Scotland, and if I could hide the title, I probably would, but you're probably aware of where it's going to take place. So basically, we're up in one of Scotland's closest countries that is not on the British Isles, and that is the Faroe Islands, which is hidden by all the calls. Woo! So basically, this is them up here, and they are, for most parts of Scotland, the closest country. Shetland's closer to Norway, I suppose. Despite their close proximity to Iceland, Norway, and Scotland, Faroe Islands are in fact owned by Denmark, which are all the way over here, which go figure, but whatever. So yeah, basically, I started learning the language because this is just the shit I do. And I always find the best way to learn the language is just to kind of throw yourself right into it. And I kind of started learning a lot about their culture. They've got a very, very interesting way of dealing with the emergency services. So this is the capital, which is Tórshavn, which is basically Thor's haven. Thor, the Norse god. Haven is basically the word for port. So yeah, that's all fine. And it's a series of islands which make for some of the most interesting kind of conundrums for how to deal with the emergency services. The thing that fascinates me is the sheer scale of their emergency services for their population. And the way I did describe this to people is, so Scotland has a population of a few million. And the Faroe Islands only has a population of 56,000, I think, something in that ballpark. The example I like to use is the difference between this. So this is the second biggest town of Klaksvik, and it has a population of 5,000 people. To start this comparison, we're going to go all the way back to Scotland, and we're going to go back to my former nearest big town, which is Dalkeith. So Dalkeith is here, and it's comprised of the districts of Dalkeith, Lugton, Woodburn, and Eskbank. All of this fall under the domain of Dalkeith. So in Dalkeith, we have several things. So we've got the police station, which is this whopping great building here. This is a divisional headquarters with lots of police vehicles and some specialist vehicles as well. There is a fire station here which has one pump. It also has a welfare unit operated by the British Red Cross. The British Red Cross also have a station somewhere around here, I can't quite exactly remember where, and it basically has two PTS, which is patient transport vehicle ambulances. There is technically no ambulance station here. There is a Dalkeith ambulance station, but it's actually located in Newton Grange, which is over here. So this is where the ambulance station is, and it's a few miles away from Dalkeith, and it's located between the towns of Newton Grange and Mayfield. So it is Newton Grange ambulance station, it is not Dalkeith ambulance station. So given it's outside the border of Dalkeith, it is discounted. So we've basically got one British Red Cross station, one fire station, which only has one pump, and one police station. Fine, sorted. The Dalkeith has a population of over 20,000 people, so it is 4 times the size of Klaksvik. We're going to go back to Klaksvik, which is all the way over here, and what they've got. They've got the most redonkulous of things. So basically, they've got the Klaksvik Fire Station, which is basically known. I've never actually heard the pronunciation aloud, so I may get this wrong, but it's called the Klaksvikiar Slokile. So the funky D at the end, I had to call it funky D, is basically a Y in this circumstance. And it has at least 3 pumps, 1 height appliance, multiple vehicles, including a boat, with trailers. It's got command vehicles. It's got like specialist response vehicles in the fire station here. It's also got a police station, which has got various police units. It's got the hospital, so there's multiple ambulance services on the Faroe Island. It's got a national ambulance service, and each hospital also owns its own ambulance service, as well as the fact that certain fire stations have an ambulance complement as well. So in Klaksvik, the ambulances are contained at the Go Away. It's contained in. What was I even saying? Yeah, right. So the hospital ambulance service is based here, and so is the National Ambulance Service. Complement, they're all based at the hospital, which is fine. And the Faroe Islands has a fourth emergency service, which is called. Well, well, it's on the screen. So it's located somewhere around here, and it's kind of a cross between the Coast Guard, the fire service, and the ambulance service. Basically, they operate specialist response vehicles that sometimes have like a fire service capacity. They run ambulances in certain places, including Klaksvik, and they also run the lifeboats, one of which is located here, and they also have one in a trailer located here. As well as other specialist units. So it's kind of it's very much a fourth mainstream emergency service, and all of this is in a population with just 5,000 people. So you're basically looking at well over 5 times the emergency service complement of Dalkeith in a population 1/4 the size. And most people will probably kind of say, well, you know what, they're all on little tiny islands. So it's probably just because it takes a long time to get back up from anywhere else. But actually, that's not true. Because you've got Klaksvik, which is here, and then literally, like 10 minutes away, you've got Leirvik, which has a fire station with 3 pumps in it. So if the fire service need backup, backup is pretty close by. Looking further away, you've also got... Everything is so fucking hard to pronounce in this language. Yeah. You've basically got... a fire station here, which has ambulances and fire stations. You've got fire station. You don't actually have a fire station here. You've got a fire station up here. Is that right? Or is it further along? No, it's Finnegar. It's Finnegar. The fire station is. So it's not modelled yet, but basically, fire stations in Leirvik, here, Finnegar, You've got the Sundus luckily here, and I don't think there's any. I think that's possibly about it. So all of this, to get from here all the way down to here, is probably about a 45-minute to an hour long journey by road. And that's connecting like fire stations. And the population, I think Runavik down here is probably the 3rd largest city. So that's 5,000, so this is going to be like what, somewhere between 2 and 4,000 people. So connecting maybe 5,000 people, there is 5 fire stations within an hour's drive of each other. Like, it's a huge complement of emergency service vehicles for not a big area, which is what makes this very interesting. And of course, the truth is that it's broken down on community lines. So on smaller islands, each community is named for the island. In bigger ones, it has multiple areas. So I think on Eysturoy, which is the 2nd biggest island, it's split between... So the Eysturoy emergency services are from here. Basically, this lobe of the island is probably the best way of describing it, except Runavik, which has got its own area, and then this part is part of a different area, which is also part of something. It's all complicated and insanely fascinating, and I could probably spend like a 3-week-long video explaining it all to everyone. However, that is not what people are here for. People are here to see stuff happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire up the emergency services and see what we've got. Okay. So, basically, because everything's on island, almost every fire station has a boat capacity, or a lifeboat, which is operated. So there's multiple lifeboats. Some of them are operated by the MRCC, which is the Marine Rescue Coordination Centre. I was just about to not remember that, but I did, which basically is the master controller for the lifeboats, even though they're operated by a mixture of MRCC, the fire stations, and the various yarn of whatevers that are dotted at various places around the country. So let's get into some things right here. So do we have any level 2 calls? There are no level 2 calls. Excellent. Okay indeed. So we're going to start off with heart attacks. So we've seen heart attack here. So we're going to look at the Hibblejaybob. That's all. Like everything is so hard to pronounce. I do know the proper pronunciations for them, but I don't like doing them. I don't like doing them on video when everything is very, very like serious. So we've got an ambulance here, but there is no doctor, and a doctor is definitely required. So we're basically going to respond with the ambulance, which is located at the fire station there, and we're also going to respond with the doctor from Klaksvik. So they are going to deploy to the scene as quickly as possible, and that is the heart attack sorted. Let's now deal with that crash, because there's actually a multi-vehicle RTC over here. So there's actually I think I'm not sure about this, but I suspect that every fire station is on a volunteer basis. So as a result, everything is on a very long deployment time. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to mobile. Now, this has 1, 1, and 1, but actually there's quite a lot of casualties here. So we're going to do it a wee bit more serious than that. So we're going to have the Collafiator, Slockalid come and deploy here. We're also going to deploy one of the pumps from Torshavn. Maybe mid-vags as well. No, we'll leave it as this for the moment, and we'll see how it goes. So we're going to deploy day 2. We're going to deploy 3 ambulances. So this is from the Torshavn Slukkeli. It's got a doctor and an ambulance. We're also going to deploy the ambulance from the ambulance service base at the hospital, and from the National Ambulance Services, which is what these are. And we're also going to need the police, of course. We're going to need the police. So we'll grab a couple of police cars from the station at Torshavn, and we're going to go here. So these units are not fully named, and they're not fully the full example of what they are in real life. So I'm not doing anything above the units that they have in real life, but this isn't representative of all the units they have, because I'm quite early on in the game, so not every station is modelled. In fact, there's a huge number of stations, emergency stations, that haven't actually been quite modelled yet. So that's kind of that. And one thing, so I noticed myself do it. It's quite hard when you speak in English to not use English characters. So I keep calling this a Slockalid because it's got a D at the end. But it is in fact not a D, it's kind of a Y in those circumstances. So it's I guess it's pronounced Slukkily as opposed to Slockalid. However, when I'm speaking in English, I am constantly going to slip up because it's just quite hard to get your head around. So we've got enough emergency services responding to that. Got a car crash into the bus stop, which is interesting. So we're going to grab a couple of police. The one thing that there is not a very huge provision of is police vehicles, because well, actually, okay, fine. You know what? Let's get some units on. Let's respond to all the calls. We'll get some units, and we'll go from there. So actually, one thing I'm going to try and show you. So the Fuglaflieder look, it has a fascinating appliance. I think this is it here. Yeah, so, well, I don't know if they've got a full... Oh, no, they do have a full picture of it here. Yeah, so they've got this rescue pump. Look at the size of this thing. It's actually the same... I can't remember... It's a Mercedes something. And there's very few of them used as fire trucks. They're usually, like, utility trucks and things. But this is a huge beast, which is currently based at Fuglaflieder. So, we're going to deploy that because it's a rescue pump. And we're definitely going to need rescue here. We're also going to get the rapid we're basically just going to get this fire station to come and attend this. We also need an officer or a tax lead area, as they are in... Where are they? Oh, of course, it's easiest to find them here. Right, so we'll grab an officer from Klaksvik, and we've got the rescue coming, so that's fine. There's also a casualty. There's definitely a casualty. So we'll grab the one from here. It's curious because there's a tiny little ambulance station here. And it's not really close to anything. There's like a small working town here, and there's like a small couple of like factories and things, and that's it. It's quite a weird location to have an ambulance station, given that there's actually not one in Runavik. But I suppose it does allow easy access to Runavik to Lerwick, Klaksvik, and all the surrounding counties. So what we'll do is we'll get some calls on the go. So this is. Oh, I actually don't know where this is. Oh, it's right next to it's right next to the one that we're looking at. Okay, fine. So we'll grab the police, and we're not going to use this one for a reason that I'll explain in a minute. We're actually running out of police stations. So this is the one at Lerwick. So the problem I have is I don't actually quite understand some of the German ones. So this is the same problem as that we actually just ran into in the Scotland video that I was doing. So yeah, so this is a fire here. There's a 3-pump fire station here in Lerwick, so we're going to turn out 2 from that. Now this one's quite interesting because I've not quite got around to modelling all of the units yet. So there's an injured person on a ferry, so we're going to deploy the ambulance from the Rescue Association, because I will call it by its English name. Because the thing is, I could call it by its Faroese name, but like I've never actually heard it said aloud, so I could be getting it wrong, and I don't know. I also have a really bad habit, again, because I'm speaking in English. It's hard to get your head around non-English pronunciations in the same sentence as English pronunciations, so I kind of like, you get mumble rap, where you speak fast by not actually pronouncing the words. Well, when I'm speaking in English, I do tend to speak Faroese by not pronouncing the words fully. Like, yeah, you understood that, right? Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Cool. So there is actually another ambulance here. So I believe at I'm making a fool of myself, aren't I? Anyway, in this ambulance station, which is based at the hospital, there is, I believe, a doctor's car, 1 ambulance, a couple of PTSs, and 2 ambulances of the National Ambulance Service. So we've already got the ambulance being deployed to the injured person on the ferry. And I'm doing this tactically to try and get both vehicles done at once. So I'm going to deploy the doctor from the hospital to the acute one. He can at least look after them, and then we'll get this person off the hospital. So they're going to deploy in whatever time possible, and the rest of these people are going to fall. So you need an ambulance, so we'll get you an ambulance. This is another one of these. We'll grab Sunda. You're already responding to this, which is fine and dandy. You're already responding to this, which also remains fine and dandy. Person in the water, and this is... Oh god, where the hell is this? So like part of the reason that this is actually quite helpful is it's great for getting to see the place name. So this, I believe, is a wind. No, there's a wind farm. There's one wind farm in the Faroe Islands. It's somewhere on this side. I can't remember where it is. So we're going to grab the fire service. So we typically need the pump. We need the officer. Usually if somebody is in the water, it usually means there's a high chance of drowning. So we're going to grab the critical care ambulance, which is basically an ambulance that already has a doctor on board. There are very few of these in the Faroe Islands. I've modelled 2. I actually think it's less than that, to be fair. But it's easier to model it because there is actually a distinct lack of doctors. There is literally 1 doctor's car at each hospital. And there's 2 big ambulances at the main hospital on the Faroe Islands, and that's it. That is it. So, we've not finished. So let's try that again. So we'll grab you, we'll grab the officer, we'll grab the critical care ambulance, and we will grab water rescue from the fire service. So we've got the divers, the boat, and the water rescue specialists. They're all going to mobilise out of the Torshavn fire station, and we're going to come up here, and we've got 1 police unit left, and we will do this. Yeah. So part of the reason, so seeing as everything is responding, and it's going to take a while, I'm just using German graphics because I didn't really have the effort or motivation to start doing Faroese units. Oh, we've got this, of course. So we'll grab the PTS. So yeah, the thing that's quite interesting, and the reason that there's so few police stations, so there's lots of ambulance. Well, there's not many ambulance stations, I suppose. But there's lots of fire stations, and there's lots of rescue association stations, all around the Faroe Islands. But one thing there's not many of, I think there's only like 6 or 7 in total, is police stations. I've only got 2 modelled here, so I've got the one in Klaksvik, and I've got the one in uh, Tórshavn here. And the Faroe Islands has one of the lowest crime rates in the world, and as such, there are no police station has cells. You cannot be arrested and be taken to a police station, into the cells in a police station. There is a prison on the island, and it's called, as is everything on the Faroe Islands, it's called something absolutely fantastic. And it only has 12 cells in it. Like, my local police station had 12 cells in it. It's unbelievable. But that's it. That's all they need is 12 cells. And that's basically used for people who can't be charged on the same day. They need to stay in overnight. And, people who are serving short and not very serious sentences. Or should I say short sentences that are not for particularly serious crimes. If there are any more than 12, or if they're serving serious or long sentences, they have to get taken all the way to Tórshavn, put on a ferry and bung all the way to Denmark to go into prison there, like miles away. And just because there's, that's all they have. And actually, it's a problem for me because in this game, you can only model a total of 10 cells in one police station. So there's an association prison, but I'm not part of an association for this because I'm so far away from everything. I'm never going to be able to get help off of anybody. So I've only got 10 cells here, so I've kind of modeled 2 fake cells as a proxy in this one, and the cells are available, just not in the right place. Like I say, I'm using it as a bit of a proxy. So yeah, it's just a huge emergency service provision, but the police aren't really needed. Well, not needed is the wrong word. They're not needed in as big quantities as they are. They quite often deal with petty crimes, road traffic accidents, that kind of thing. There's no Faroese riots and things like we see in various other countries. One of the more interesting problems, and this is kind of where this game kind of breaks down, is that even though these towns are actually really close together, it is a reasonably long drive for the Faroe Islands to have to go here, all the way south, on road number 70, all the way south, to this roundabout, all the way north. All the way north, past this junction, all the way north, up this junction, all the way north, up this little windy path, and then up here. So the game actually just kind of like punts them across the road, which is not very realistic, but it's a limitation of the game. And you'll sometimes see the same thing happen between Tórshavn and Runavík. When all of the units are in place, it will probably be easier. It will happen less and less. But for the moment, while I'm still building up the resources that are in the station, this is kind of how it has to be for the moment, which is, yeah, I don't know. Everything is just a very interesting setup. It's a completely different culture to us. Obviously, a lot of people very sadly know the Faroe Islands for the whaling that goes on there, which is obviously upsets a lot of people seeing all the blood and things. And it's just one of these things that everyone looks on it with absolute horror because it's a different culture to yours. It's wrong to you because your culture, people in the UK don't go whaling. People in Japan don't care. They don't think it's a problem. People in the Faroe Islands, they don't think it's a problem. People in Iceland, Norway, they don't think it's a problem. But when you're brought up in a different culture, you do think it's a problem. So it's one of these things that aren't. It's cultural differences. It's cultural differences, but it's definitely a very fascinating place. The thing I love about trying to learn the language, is it's a fantastically complicated language to learn, because everything is spelled all funky like. But actually, letters they've got some complicated rules for letters. So, for example, this. I'm trying to zoom in on the letter itself, but it's not letting me because letters. Because the map keeps rescaling itself. But basically, this letter here keeps changing It's silent if it's in between two vowels, and at the end of the word, if it's at the end of the word, it takes on a Y, basically. And G is pronounced everywhere except in the middle of two vowels, in which case it's used to divide them. Some cases it's G, some cases it's Y, some cases it's silent, and it's just like, oh my giddy goose. But the best part of it, the reason that it intrigues me so much, and the reason that I kind of stopped learning any language I've ever tried to learn, is you get to the point where you start reading text and you come across words that you don't know, so you just bung the thing into Google Translate. I've done, I've closed it down now, but as I did when I was looking at the stuff for when it was in German. And it just becomes far too easy and convenient just to try and Google Translate things, and you don't learn the words like you used to be able to. Because you're not looking it up. You've not got the word constantly floating in your head and you're not looking it up. Instead, you just copy paste and that's it, you're done. You don't even have to read the word aloud in your head. You just put it into Google Translate and it tells you what it is. And you don't remember it. You don't. However, there is no option for Faroese. Because Faroese is not on Google Translate. So if you want to read the book, you have to fire yourself up a dictionary. We have a lot of calls to attend. Yeah, you fire up the dictionary and you have to learn it that way yourself. Right. You need a officer. I believe the officer is fully deployed from both stations. So we're going to cheat a bit here, and we're going to use the officer from the airport. So there's one airport on the Faroe Islands, and it's located over here in the island of Vegar. And I don't actually have the POI set up yet because I don't have all the units installed. I've got the two Panthers. There's a kind of rescue unit, and there's also the steps, and I think one other unit. I've sent Fire 3. I didn't mean to send Fire 3. I meant to send Fire 1. Maybe Fire 1. Here we go. So we'll send Fire 1 and we'll return Fire 3. So we don't have any of this set up, so they are free to attend calls. So we'll send those as a bit of a cheat. The acute asthma attack requires... So yes, so the ambulance is free, the Volvo is free. Where is this? Oh, this is the one over here, right? Okay, so we'll send the ambulance from Klaksvik, that's not too far away. An officer is required. We're now actually completely out of officers, so we'll just send the nearest officer who is already on a job. They will attend as soon as they're free, and it's going to be the officer from Klaksvik, that's fine. You're ready to go to hospital, so we'll send you to the hospital in Torshavn, which is fine, and we have to go back because you're in the requirement of one fire engine, which we'll grab from Torshavn, and also a rescue unit, which there is one also in Torshavn. So basically the Torshavn fire station is this huge box. It's like a warehouse that is just ram-packed of fire engines of various magnitude. I've seen every time I think I've seen all the fire stations that are present in Torshavn, all the fire engines that are present in the Torshavn fire station. I am sorely mistaken and something else turns up, so it's always quite interesting. 2 calls have come in. We've got a diving accident which we need to attend. So diving accident, it's in Midvager, so we'll grab the Midvager Sluckily. We'll grab 2 units actually. We'll also grab a critical care ambulance of the National Ambulance Service. And we'll grab the last remaining boat, which is going to be the lifeboat, which will deploy out from Torshavn. And the funny thing is that this is another one of these cases that there is actually a lifeboat at that station. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I muted my sneeze so I didn't burst your eardrums. There is actually a lifeboat located in the waters of... Where am I? Yeah, okay, so this is Midvager. Sorry, Mayvager. Again, this is just a thing of English. English is so hard because I just see that as a D. And it's just Midvager, but it's not. It is not. But there's actually a... so this is a combined station. It has units from... it's got units from the kind of community fire service ambulance service, and the rescue association all here. And the rescue association operates the lifeboat, which is here. Although technically speaking, I did check this morning, and it has actually been taken off the seas for maintenance, which is interesting. But yeah. Anyway, it's just not been modelled yet because this is a game where you have to grow the emergency services. It's not like 911 Operator where they're all already in place. Where is it? Where's it going? Where's the diving accident? Oh, it's here. Oh, it's just there's no other units available. Okay, so there's a diving accident on the way into the sea. Okay, cool. Right. Interesting. So one of the cool things that they've got going on is they're very obsessed with tunnel technology. So for the longest time, it was impossible to gain rapid access to the other islands, because even though some islands are a huge distance away from each other. So you look at the difference between Sandoyer and Suðuroyar. It's actually quite a big distance between them, and you can only get there by ferry, which is not the easiest, particularly for like if you need to get there in a hurry, basically. And while ferry life is very important in the Faroe Islands, like you can see here, there's a settlement on Nosoi, which you can only get to by ferry. But there's bridges and tunnels that are being built everywhere now. So between Vega and I forget what this island's called, the main island. Does it tell me? Oh yeah, Streymoy. So between Vega and Streymoy, there is a tunnel which goes under the sea between them. There's then a bridge that takes you between Streymoy and Eysturoy. There's a tunnel which takes you from Eysturoy over to Borøy. And then there's bridges here, tunnels here. It's a very interesting one, and they're now really expanding that infrastructure quite a bit. So the thing, so between Tórshavn and its suburb of, I forget what it's called, Hoyvik. Between Tórshavn and Hoyvik and Runavík, which is just over the sea, the distance is actually pretty small. But actually, in order to get there, you've got to go, and we've already done this when we did the Fuglafjord call, which is you've basically got to go from Tórshavn, you've got to go north on the road, west, north, continue north, go to the roundabout, go east, go north, go east, go north, north, over the bridge, north still, south, east, south, 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 and it's an hour-long drive. It's well over an hour drive to get there. Whereas they're now building a tunnel, which is going to go from the main road between Tórshavn and everywhere else. It's going to go underwater, underground. They're going to bring it all the way under the islands, and they're actually going to have a roundabout underwater, which is going to be fascinating. One of them is going to split off and go to Runavík, and the other one is going to split off and provide access to the very bottom of Eysturoy, which is interesting. It'll basically cut journey times and make everything considerably easier. There is also in the works a tunnel. It's not in the works. It's in the it's having feasibility studies done to see how possible it is to take a tunnel from Tórshavn south all the way from here, all the way to Suðuroyar. So it's just like, oh god, so far. And yet, it would make life considerably easier because you don't have to rely on ferries. I mean, the Faroese are a very, very boat-heavy nation. Literally almost every single... In fact, I cannot think in my head of any single town or village that is not by the coast. I'm actually trying to rack my brains to think if there is one, even just one. And I actually don't think there is. Almost every single town has a harbour of some variety. So this is a big town, so obviously it will do. But even small ones that have very few people won't have one. In fact, if I go to VR, which is... Where is it? I've forgotten. It's somewhere over here. There's a town which has an official population of 0, that has technically a fire station and the harbour. It's just kind of like, what? What is any of this? So yeah, this is what I mean by it. Um, it's a furiously interesting place. To clarify, Veer, it doesn't actually have a fire station, but it does have a shed that has an old, and by old I mean ancient, fire station in it. And it also has pumps and stuff. I don't know if it's in working order, but it's there. I can't even remember where it is. It's somewhere on this coast. I'm sure it's not as far north as this, although I'm probably wrong. I'm usually wrong. It is literally just a collection of houses. Oh no, here it is. Here it is. Yeah. So it's one of these buildings I think has the fire pumper in it. So it's a fantastically complicated place. And we've got a whole bunch of calls again, so let's see what we've got. So you're ready to transport, so let's transport you. So even though Klaksvik is the closest hospital, the hospital at Torshavn is the one that's got the things that we need. So we're going to transport there. We've actually just got another one coming in, which can go anywhere, so we'll send it anywhere, which is, again, well, Torshavn's the closest, so that's fine. Car requiring a jump start. Not urgent, but whatever, we'll send the unit to it, because we're nice here. Need the closest available ambulance, which is right outside the hospital. We've also got a car in the water, but I don't have any units free, so I'm not going to be able to send anything to that just now. In reality, obviously I would, because there's let me see if I can do this from memory. So Torshavn Fire Station has boats. There are two huge boats that are in partnership with the MRCC that are based at Torshavn. There is, and I've never been able to get an honest answer to this, the Havner. So basically, Torshavn's often known just by its last bit of its name, just Havn, and the possessive is Havnar. So the Havner Rescue Association has one or two boats. I've never been able to get a solid answer of if it operates both of them, but it operates at least one from the harbour here. It's literally there's a wee special jetty where the ambulance just pulls up and they can go on and go do stuff, which is interesting. So yeah, so there's at least 4 potential boats here in Torshavn. Klaksvik has one at the fire station, one at the rescue association, and the lifeboat here. So there's 3 there. There's none there. There's none there. There's none there. In Aie, there is a rescue association, but I don't know what's inside it. So I don't actually know if it has a boat or not, or maybe if it's just an ambulance or something. I would suspect it's more likely just to be an ambulance, because there is no ambulance station quite near to the place. So that's quite interesting. Runavik Fire Station does not have a boat. There is a separate rescue association there, but I've actually not been able to get any information about what vehicles they have. So I assume it has a boat, but I don't know what it is. Let's see. So there's boats and rescue associations down here in all the islands, and then there's a lifeboat which is operated from Mayvagar. So interesting. Interesting indeed. Right, so what's the call? So apparently one of the person here requires a fire engine to be moved, so we'll grab one of the ones from Klaksvik. And yeah, okay, so this is a car that requires being moved. So we'll get an ambulance responding out here for the acute German word that I don't know. I suppose I've got some free time, can probably look it up. Yeah, so this is quite complicated. So I'm playing a game in Faroese, which I'm learning, and I'm playing a game that is a German game, and I don't speak German either. So it's a learning experience all round for absolutely everything. German to English, here we go. Why? Why don't you just, like, give me the right word? Like, what? I kind of don't. No, okay, well, this didn't help me. This, oh no, what? So, stomach pains, abdominal pains. Cool, awesome, fine, fantastic. Yeah, I really need to go and get the graphics sorted. Anyway, folks, Merry Christmas to you. My voice is starting to kind of die a death, and I have I've overspoken myself because I've basically done 3 videos, recorded them in a row in the same order that you're probably going to be seeing them. So, yeah. While you'll be watching them 1 or 2 hours apart, I've not quite decided on what the schedule is going to be. I have recorded them all in one sitting in one go. So I'm a bit worn out. I'm a bit tired, but well, I'm back. So hopefully you'll start seeing more videos from me in the future. And yeah, excellent. Merry Christmas, folks, and I will see you for the new year and beyond. For those of you who have stuck with me through my big pause in YouTube, thank you very, very much. Like I said in the very first video, I am going to get back into gaming. It's not going to be nearly as intense as it was previously, and yeah, we'll just take it as it comes. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in 2019. Bye, folks.